Hello people, I'm just going through the process now of unmuting people. We'll start in the next minute or two. Claire and Kim, I've just unmuted you. Can you just see if you can speak so we can hear you?
Hello, this is Kim speaking.
Oh.
Okay, so Kim, can hear you loud and clear. Claire?
Yes, I'm here.
Great, wonderful, welcome.
Thanks.
Diane, I haven't got the option to unmute you at the minute for some reason, but do you want to try? If you haven't got the capacity for that, one of the other things is hopefully you'll see on the drop down there's a chat box. So if you can't, haven't got the speech capability on your laptop or whatever, don't worry, we can pick up the questions through chat. So hopefully you can see it that way. Once you've tested yourselves, would you mind then muting yourself again, just so there's not other noise? But we do want this to be a participatory session, so by all means do unmute yourself when you want to ask questions at certain times, if that's okay with people.
Okay.
Thank you. So actually, just while we're waiting, it might be quite good to start the process, and other people as they come in can catch us up rather than waiting and eating into the time. So I suppose the first question which Jen was interested in, and I'll do introductions in a moment, is first of all for you to say where you're from in the country, what it is you do, and what it is you're interested in from the session. So feel free. I mean, maybe Chris, you can start off with unmuting yourself and telling us where you're from, what you do, and what you're interested in. Okay, or Sarah, you can do it, Sarah. So Sarah, I think at the moment you've unmuted yourself. Can you hear us?
I train in forest school with Jen, and can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yeah, that's very loud and clear.
So I run forest school training with Jen. I work in Oxfordshire, and I'm going to be teaching this myForest to a group on Thursday.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Sarah. Kim, so then would you mind muting yourself then, Sarah? Thank you. Yep, Kim, over to you.
Hello, I'm Kim. I live in Wantage, just down the road from Silver Foundation. So I work as freelance educator with Hill End and about in Oxfordshire, really. So I'm a forest store leader, interested in local stuff. I've also got a deputy forest woodland manager at Peewick Woods up on the Ridgeway, part of Sustainable Wantage Community Woodland, which I'm looking to use for outdoor education, forestry, all that sort of thing.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Yeah, if you can mute yourself, then that's great, wonderful, thank you. Diane, I don't know whether you can speak or not. The icon's not coming up, but we'll give you a try. Okay, not to worry. Claire, do you want to unmute yourself and again just say where you're from, what you do, and what you're interested in?
Yeah, hi. I'm in Rutland in the East Midlands, and I work with Alex, who's sat here with me. We run a community interest company called Root and Branch Out, and we do forest school and other community growing projects. But we're just about to take on a woodland, a community woodland in Oakham. And yeah, we're just trying to build our skills, really.
Okay, wonderful, thank you. Welcome to both of you. And Chris, do you want to finish off? Just need to unmute yourself first. Nope, still can't hear you, Chris. Okay, not to worry. That doesn't work at the moment. As I say, there are other ways we can talk. Okay, so let's move on with this. So by way of introductions, my name is Mick McGrath. I work for a charity called Locality, and the reason we're involved in this session is because we are one of the members of the steering group Making Local Woods Work. Making Local Woods Work, hopefully, as you're aware, is a £1.5 million programme which has been funded through the big lottery, and the focus of it is very much around encouraging woodland social enterprise. It's been going for 2.5 years now. It's got another 6 months or so, and through it we've been working with certainly over 50 community woodland groups now to help them develop up their woodland approaches. Unfortunately, there isn't any money attached to it, but what there is professional support from organisations such as Locality. So, for example, I've helped a number of groups with business planning, those sorts of aspects. But equally, groups have tapped into professional woods people in order to gain and gather experience and so forth. Just a little plug. As I mentioned, the time is winding down a little bit on the programme, but if there's something where you feel you could benefit from getting some additional support, by all means do get in contact with me afterwards, and I can put you in touch with the plunky who run the programme to see whether we can provide you with some additional support, particularly if you feel you'll be able to use it over the next 6 months. So that's a fairly brief overview about why we're doing this series of webinars. I have done over the last 18 months or so, but this particular one is being run by Jen Hurst, who's providing step-by-step of how to use myForest for education. So at that point, Jen, I'll shut up and sort of hand over to you and take it away.
Okay, I'm going to click the start broadcast button. Oops. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, lovely to hear you all.
Great.
Great.
Jen.
Friendly voices, fantastic. Okay, so this is a voyage of discovery for me personally, having been used to doing this workshop in a woodland with people I can see and clipboards and pens and leaves and trees. So I'm really excited, and huge thanks to Mick for his patience taking me through all the technology. And I think for us at Silver Foundation, if this works out, and we're relying on you for your feedback, it will mean we can reach more people across the country doing training this way, and mix it up with the practical training. If anyone feels at the end of this, we're obviously going to touch on quite a lot of woodland management. If you still feel you would like a more practical session in the woods, then I'd be really happy to talk about that and arrange something separate to this. So the funding for this has mainly been through the Patsy Wood Trust, which in the past 4 years has funded us at Silver Foundation to develop myForest for education for forest school leaders and educators, and we've done that very much in partnership with people like Sarah, who's also on the line, and lots of forest school leaders who trialed it with us. So it's a product of lots of people. And at Silver, we see ourselves as a platform to create things and then for people to use them. And of course, the Forest School Association have been crucial from the start, helping us work out what everyone needs out there and also promoting it. So thanks to everyone who's been involved. And we're just entering a new phase of funding, so we're hoping to develop it further. So any feedback you have today will be really welcome on the actual myForest for Education, our training, and things that we can do in the future. Okay, so today's webinar, we've done a few introductions, which is really useful. I'm always aware that everyone's at different stages of knowledge. Some of you, certainly the ones who've introduced so far, are very familiar with the term woodland management and have sites. And some of you who I may not have heard because of whatever the technological issues, you may be just at the beginning of that and understanding what it is. So I'll try and cover that whole spectrum of knowledge. And then we're just going to go basically step by step through, how to create a management plan for your site with an education social focus. And of course, there may be some of you who are not forest school leaders or in the forest school world, but have young people or other groups using your woodlands for social benefit. So this isn't restricted to just forest school folks. So yeah, we'll talk about how to survey the woodland, and then we'll look at myForest itself, which is our online free tool for creating a management plan, how you set up your own account, and then how you use it to map your site, how you put in information about your site, and how you create your management plan. And then at the end, I'll come to support information and training, because this is kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a whole world of forestry out there, lots more organisations who can give you more support and training. So that's the rough plan. And we've got about 4 or 5 questions that we're going to stop the presentation. Mick's going to ask you a question, so you'll get time to feedback. And then hopefully we'll have a good 15 minutes at the end or more to have more general questions. I mean, if there is something like you're really just lost, don't know what I'm talking about, and would like me to slow down or do something, then I think you can communicate that to Mick as we go along. So yeah. Okay, so I've heard from a few of you, and is there anybody else at this point, Mick, that you want to bring in to introduce themselves?
No, I don't think so. We're all yours.
No, we're all good. Okay, great. So as I said, normally we're sat around in a circle, doing this face to face. So thanks very much for doing it online. Okay, myself, quick background. I've been a secondary school teacher previously and made my way to forest school world, which obviously changed my life, as it does. Based in Oxfordshire, and I've been a forest school leader at West Kidlington Primary School 1 day a week for the past 6 years. And I've been working at Silver for the past 5 years, helping develop their education programme. And we're a very small charity. We work nationally, but we work in partnership. And we like to try and innovate and work with people on the ground to solve problems and fill in the gaps where there's gaps. And our ultimate aim as a charity is to promote and support the management of our woodlands in this country for the benefit of young people and nature, but also to support woodland owners to manage their forests better and create management plans. So yeah, that's, I guess I come to this myForest for Education very much as a practitioner. So that's kind of what brought me to management planning in the first place. So Silver in general, I just thought for those of you who don't know us already, we don't just do education work. We've got 4 programs. So we're based near Abingdon in South Oxfordshire, where we have a wood centre, which is that farm building in the picture there, divided into units, and there's lots of wood-based businesses working out of those units. And it's a really thriving site. If any of you are ever in the area and would like to come and see it, you're very welcome. We've also planted up a new future forest of 7,000 trees, and part of that is actually a forest school site, where some of you I know online have been using and coming over to see it. So again, others are very welcome. There's also a science program. There's a lady there doing some surveying in the woods. So Gabriel Henry, our chief executive, does lots of surveys with woodland owners and works with PhD students. And he, as an organization, we try to inform policy, forestry policy at higher levels. Then our forestry program, you can see in the top right there, myForest. That's the original woodland management program that's been at Silver since 2009, 2010. And this was developed for woodland owners because obviously the Forestry Commission support woodland owners hugely and have always done. But Silver and the Forestry Commission realised there's a lot of small woodland owners and people with, not huge forests, but needed support for their management planning. And there's about 40% of our woodlands in the UK don't have a management plan at all. They're just kind of on farms, or they're sort of neglected, and they may have been planted for one reason or another, but they're just not being looked after. So that's one of the kind of main reasons Silver was set up, was to try and get those woodlands better managed for all kinds of reasons. So myForest, it does get confusing sometimes. We obviously have myForest for the woodland owners, and we have myForest for education, which is more for folks like us who are working with groups in the woods. It may be that some of you straddle both those categories, and I'm happy to talk about that at the end. The myForest system is linked to the Forestry Commission grant system, so you can create a very big, full-blown, proper woodland management plan in myForest, and that can go through to the Forestry Commission for a grant and the kind of proper forestry regulations. Whereas myForest for education is a mini management plan system. It's like scaled down for our use. So when you see it, I think that'll become clear. Oh, there's our map. We work nationally. So just for anyone who doesn't know what we mean by the term woodland management, we've got a poster which is on our website. You can download it, and an information leaflet to try and put this kind of term into plain English and use some graphics to help anyone understand woodland management, because our focus at Silver is not just foresters and educators, but it's the wider public as well. So really it's about looking after and caring for woodlands for a variety of reasons. And I think a lot of people assume that's just timber and making money out of woods, plantation forestry, like we've seen with the Forestry Commission in the north of England. But of course, that's not true. We manage woodlands for all kinds of reasons. And obviously some woodlands are there's not a lot of intervention. They may be conservation woodlands, and you can see all the reasons in that poster. So that's always quite a nice, neat summary of what we mean by woodland management. And at the end of the day, if you're managing a site, it's kind of your choice, really. What are your aims? How are you going to manage this site for your purposes? So the other thing about myForest for education, we really felt that at Silver there was this whole amazing world of education work going on out there, forest schools and woodland learning and outdoor learning, and using woodlands. And then there was this whole world of forestry who were wanting to integrate woodland management, and those two things were coming together so well. So we hope that the myForest for education system helps give you as educators. Oh, sorry.
A bit of feedback at the moment.
Okay.
Try again and just sort of, it's just happened in the last few seconds.
Okay. Just check my plugged in. Okay. How's that?
It's still sort of, you do sound a bit like a Dalek at the minute.
Oh dear. Okay. I could try without the headphones, and I could try the microphone on the laptop.
That sounds better, actually.
Okay, just like, should I carry on?
Yes, I think so. It's still not brilliant, but it did sound better.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, stop me again if it goes a little bit awry. So yeah, that's part of the reason why myForest for education has been developed. And it is a process, like I said, that I'll be going through: the survey of your site, the mapping of your site, collecting information, developing a 3 to 10 year work plan, and then printing off a management plan and maps that will be useful for you. So it's very much got a practical focus to it. So to start with, you basically need to get in your woodlands. So that's why it's a bit odd that we're all sitting looking at a computer, because normally right now I'd be in the woods with you. But let's imagine you're in your woods or your site. And we've got this survey sheet that you can see on the left. That's a download on the myForest system that you can have access to for free. And it's basically getting in your woodland with your clipboard and doing a sketch map of your site, and just annotating it with whatever is in your site. If you've got fire pits or log piles, individual trees or copses of trees, or if you've got a stand of a plantation. So any information, gather up and put on that sketch map. And part of that survey sheet will also have a tree inventory table on it. So this is where you get your identification materials out and work out what tree species you have growing on your site. And you make a list of those, and depending on the size of your site, you either count them or do an estimation of percentage. So you might, have 60% ash and maybe 10 veteran oak trees and 10% hazel, coppice, that kind of thing. So you're trying to get a feel for the proportions of trees in your woodlands. And while you're doing that, if it's a new site, you may be looking at your trees, checking out some health and safety. That's where you'll need to call in someone who's got the knowledge to look at the health and safety of your trees. It's really great to have someone along to look at your site, like a forester who knows more about tree management as well. Also, part of your survey will be to do an ecological impact assessment to really start understanding, what kind of impact are we going to make on this site by bringing people here regularly, whether it's young people or adults. And that's both the negative impacts and how we can go about mitigating those. What can we do to overcome the negative impacts, but also what are the positive impacts? So obviously in Forest School, we try to increase the biodiversity on our sites. We try and improve the sites and not destroy them or trash them. And ultimately, while you're walking around your woodland collecting all this information, you're starting to think about your actions. For my site at West Kidlington Primary School in Oxford, we have a lot of soil erosion. So I'm already thinking about, we need more wood chip for the autumn. We need to start, making sure we're not going to churn it up in the winter. So all those ideas you can record as you're walking around your site. So that's the kind of information gathering you'll do in your actual woodland. And if you're anything like me, you'll come out with a survey form that's kind of soggy and chewed and kind of, scribbles all over the place. And you'll want to put that into a neater format to make your management plan, to make it a little bit more presentable to anyone that you're working with and for yourselves. So this is where myForest for Education comes in. So basically, on the Silver website, it's a completely free tool that you go into the Silver main website, or you can type in myForest on Google and it'll pop up and you'll see a page something like this. And the first thing to do is register an account, which is completely free. And when you go to register yourself, you need to go down the education provider route. So you might remember I was explaining the difference between myForest and myForest for Education. Some people sort of by accident go into Woodland Owner or Woodland Agent. Those will take you through to the myForest version, which is for woodland owners, whereas the education provider button will take you through our slimmed down mini management plan version. And if you're nervous or you just want to play around and mess up and have a go at myForest before you use it or see if it's for you, you can go into Sandbox, and that you could just do anything in there. You can, if you're using it for teaching and your students or trainees want to set something up, you can use it for that. So click on that button and it'll bring you through to this page, which is just a straightforward registration page, and we won't be using your details for any mass mailing or mass marketing, but you've got options there of what you would like to receive. Probably for anyone who's kind of in touch with Silver, getting our Silver e-news is one of the most useful things, because we put everything into that e-newsletter. And And again, if you're not in the categories of teacher, forest school leader, just tick the other, and you've got a chance there to write in who you are and what you're doing. So that's an example of mine there. So once you've registered, that's all you have to do. You're straight into the system itself. You get a message like that, and then you're taken through to your home page. So this is like your account homepage. It's like a dashboard that's particular to you and your account. And you'll get quite a few of these grey pop-up boxes that just inform you what's happening. So on the dashboard, you'll see the Woodland Manager box there. That's where you actually click into your actual site, because you've probably put your postcode in, so that will come up as your actual woodland site. But I thought I'd just show you quickly what these other things are, these other boxes are. Oh, sorry, just to explain that as well as mapping your site to do your management plan, we've also got this business directory and resources that I'm going to show you now that are part of the myForest system. So just quickly then, if you click on the guidance and resources text, that takes you through to this screen, which has got some tutorial videos on the myForest system. So we haven't done these for the myForest for Education yet, but hopefully we will be. So if you do want to see what's on the other system, these are good to watch. But more importantly, I mentioned the survey sheet at the beginning, and those are on the right-hand side with the big red arrow. You just click on those blue buttons and you can download the survey sheet and use it for doing your site. And there's also a tree identification key there developed by the foresters. So you can use that too. So in the presentation, anything with a big red arrow is relevant to us or indicates this is where you click and this is what you do. Also, as part of your dashboard, you've got this directory, which is, if you're trying to find any of these things listed, you can tick which one you're looking for and put how far away you want it to search, and it will come up with a map of these things in your area. And this is an area we're really wanting to develop in a new funded project, specifically for educators and forest school leaders, because we're quite aware that we sometimes struggle to find people to help us, or donations of wood, or advice from ecologists, that kind of thing. So if you want to take a look at that at some point, and feedback, would be really, really grateful. The Woodland Star rating you'll see on your dashboard, that's been developed to encourage woodland owners to meet the UK forestry standard, which is basically a good practice standard. So although it's designed for woodland owners, you can apply it to your own site. And again, it's just in terms of educating ourselves about forestry, it's a really interesting tool to go through. So go into that and have a look at that, and it can help you sort of shape what you're trying to do on your site. The other thing that we offer on the myForest site is, as I said, we're aware that we can't provide training for everything to do with woodland management, but we've got an offer here if you'd like to join up with some of the other NGOs out there who do forestry and woodland training. So the Royal Forestry Society offers beginners courses for people interested in woodland management, small woods also, and if you're in Scotland, the Royal Scottish Forestry Society. So that's like a reduced rate for the first year of membership. Silver is not a membership organisation, but we work really closely with people like these. Okay then, so we've talked about mapping the site. So that's an example of a year 6 pupil in an Oxford school having a go at mapping their site. I meant to say that before. This is not just for the adults. You can get your young people involved with myForest and doing management planning. Once you've got your sketch map, you want to start transferring that information back into the myForest tool. So you're back in your dashboard and you want to open up the map and start putting your information in. So that big arrow is pointing at the Launch Woodland Manager. Just so you know, any blue buttons in the system are action buttons, and any orange buttons are help. So that will take you through to some more information, and again tells you what the symbols mean. There's a little explanation of how the system is set up. so which I'm going to tell you anyway. And there's also some definitions here. So we have used some forestry terminology called compartments and subcompartments, and I'm going to show you those right now. But I'd be interested in your feedback on those. So when you go into when you've gone through those boxes, you'll see your site pop up on the screen in Google Maps, and you'll get these help boxes in bright orange. Again, just guide you through. You can switch those all off if they're getting in the way. So here's West Kidlington Primary School, just north of Oxford. And the first thing, the forest school site I work on is in one corner of the school grounds. And the first thing I need to do is to define that area. So basically what we're doing is defining the area we're working. Where is our site on this big Google map? And in forestry, when you look at a big woodland or a big forest, the foresters call the whole area the compartment. So if we translate that to a school grounds, the whole of the primary school is like the compartment. So that's like that whole area. And we've got to give that compartment a name. So in our case, this is a primary school. So I'm going to call it the West Kidlington Primary School. So you click on the button that says Add Compartment. So you're literally just giving that area a name. And up pops the box, and you just type in the name of your compartment. So for me, it's the school. For someone else, it might be Neptune Wood if you're working out in a big woodland, or it could be a nature reserve name, whatever your situation is. So you give it a name and then click the blue button, Create Compartment. And that doesn't actually, this is probably one of the more confusing parts of the whole system. It doesn't actually show you the boundary of that compartment, but you've just basically given it a name. So when it comes to boundaries, we still want to actually draw around our actual site that we're using. So again, in forestry, the foresters divide up forests and woodlands into subcompartments. So they might have like a stand of Scots pine, and they might have some oak woodland, and they'll draw a boundary around those areas and call those subcompartments. So it's just a way of dividing up a forest into manageable units. So for us, or for me specifically in West Kidlington, my forest school site is going to be one of the subcompartments within the school. So I click on that. I'm going to call it Forest School Site. I'm going to click Create Subcompartment. And now myForest for Education is asking me to actually draw a boundary around that subcompartment. So you'll get this message up, and then it will allow you to literally click on the map with your cursor and start drawing a boundary. So literally, our forest school site is the size of a tennis court filled with some trees. Don't be put off by that jagged boundary that's going across the house there. This was the only way I could do a screenshot, by taking my cursor off and doing a screenshot. So normally you just see a rectangle there like this. So once you've clicked around the edges of your site, you double click on that little dot where you first started, and the cursor releases and the boundary is drawn on your map, and it automatically labels the map, as you can see there, Forest School Site. And that's my first subcompartment. We've actually done a little extension to our site, and I'm going to give that another name, another subcompartment name, because it's separate to our main Forest School site. And oh, sorry, I just wanted to say, a lot of people worry that they have to do it perfectly the first time, and this system has been designed so any mistakes, or if you do it wrong, you can just delete it really easily. So along the whole way, our IT managers put in options to delete, and there's a little X's as well on the screen. You can see you can delete things, so don't worry about making a mistake. Sorry, so I'm going to add another subcompartment. So I'm going to click on that blue box again. Our extra extension to Forest School is called the Willow Patch, and we're going to click Create Subcompartment, and then the cursor, I'll drop onto the page again, and I'll just draw that boundary around the Willow Patch. Again, ignore my funny zigzag to the left. And you can see there the reddish coloured box is the second subcompartment I've just drawn, and it's called it Willow Patch automatically. There's lots in the grey column to the left. You can see there's lots of things you can do if you want to make the mapping more sensitive, your boundaries more sensitive. You can play around with the labels and where they go. So I'm not going to go into masses of detail about all those things. You can kind of go in and play around with those in your own time. What I really like is that all the time myForest is making measurements, and you've got like hectares and meters, and so you've got data coming out of your drawings. So sorry, Mick, have I missed any poll questions? I think I might have actually. I'm just thinking, where are we? Yeah, I might get to the end of this bit of mapping and go back to that poll question, if that's okay, because I'll just keep going with this and then I'll stop, if that's all right.
Yep, no problem.
So, yeah, great. Okay, so we've got the boundaries in, and this is the fun bit. You want to add your features. So from your survey sheet, when you've been out in the woods, scribbling all over your map, you can now put those onto your digital map. So you go into features and you click on that blue button, add features, and you can give your feature a title. So this time I'm going to do a fire pit, and I'm going to choose kind of what shape that fire pit's going to be. So you've got three options there. You can do it as a line, as a polygon, or a point, and it's got a little description of those. And because the fire pit is a square shape, I've chosen to draw a polygon, and I click create feature. And just like you did creating the subcompartment, you can click your cursor on the map and it will drop the line on, and you can just outline your fire pit. And you can just about see it actually on the Google map. Must have been a nice day when they took this picture. So there's my fire pit, and you can see on the left-hand side in the grey box under features, it's started to list my features for me. And it's even given me the size of my fire pit. It's clever. Just to let you know, the little arrow where it says fire pit 8.59 meters squared, and it's got a little arrow there that you'll see later on. That means you can change the position of this in the list when you add lots of features. And the I symbol means you can hide this feature on your map if you don't want to see it. And the X is to delete it if you go wrong again. So I've gone in and I've added a couple more features with polygons. So we've got a pond in the top right corner there, and we've got the mud kitchen. And then I've decided I want to put some paths in. So this time I've chosen line, not polygon. And I've dropped the cursor on the map, and I can just click around. Each one of these little white dots is another click on my cursor. And you can move that around. So once you've created that path, you can still keep moving it by just dragging on the dots. Just to say, I've put an arrow up the top there on the Save Changes button. Just remember to keep saving the changes if you do make changes to your features and want to move them around. And then it will take you back every time to that previous page, this page. So yeah, so you can see here how your features are being listed, and you just keep adding as many as you like. So I've put in some more paths. I want to now put some trees, and so I'm not going to put all the trees because that would take us too long, but I'm putting the trees that I consider important for my management plan. And obviously it's up to you what sort of sites you've got. So I've put the emergency tree in, which is one we like to say we go to if we have an emergency. And it's quite a good landmark for us on the site. And I'm using points this time. So literally just clicking where that tree is on the site, and it leaves a big blue dot. And then you can see it has appeared again on the left-hand side. And then I've done that for all our sort of significant trees of a certain size. And I've also numbered those trees because it does help, when you're in your management plan, if you're referring to a tree rather than having like 10 willows and they're all called willow, if you want to do like some pollarding to one of the willows, if you had it like willow 1, willow 2, willow 3, willow 4, that makes it a bit easier to find. If you want to move any of those dots, you can click on them and move them around. That's what this arrow is pointing to. The other thing I've done where it's difficult to kind of identify individual trees because there's so many of them, on on the left there, you'll see a long shape, which is basically a big copse of older trees. So I've put in a few blobs that are kind of, you know, there's more than 10 trees there and they're different ages. So, you know, you can use whatever system you want for your site. So, yep, that's just showing you labeling away all those trees there. And okay, so for the maps, you've basically created a lot of information on this one map. So you've done the boundary and you've put features on it. But as you've probably started observing, you know, when you look at the map, that's quite difficult to know the difference between a pond and a copse. You know, the colours are not really telling you anything at this stage. So under the maps title on the left there, there's a system to create specific maps and color them. So I've just done one as an example, but you can go into this and color your maps however you like. So what I've done here, I've clicked on add, and that takes you to this box called add print map. We've called them print maps because typically people want to print the map off. So that's just a kind of name we wanted to give it to make it different from all the other maps. So give your map a title. In this case, I've actually got some tree surgeons asking me which willow trees need pollarding this summer or this autumn. And so I've got to highlight 2 of the trees and give them this map so they know where to go. So willow trees needing pollarding 2018, and click create print map. And what will happen on the Google screen, on the Google map, is you'll get this lighter box, which is basically the boundary of the map you're going to create. So at the moment, it's given me it in a very in a scale that's not right for what we need. So if you look in the grey box on the left, you can see there's a scale option there. So I'm at 1 to 10,000 at the moment. So I want to decrease that. And you can do that by selecting in that box, but you can also drag this box around where the red arrow is pointing. So if I show you the next slide, that makes sense. So what I've done is I've reduced the scale to 1 to 250, and I've dragged the box over the area that I want to be printed out. And you'll see there's other things you can play around with, paper size there, and other features. So if anyone's ever used GIS systems, this is sort of the language we've used here is quite similar to GIS, where you can create different layers to show different information. So I obviously had a huge amount of information on that first map, lots of trees and features, but I'm going to pick out just a couple of trees, and that's a new layer of information. So basically, you need to give that a title, and that's what that box means there. And I've called it willows needing pollarding, and I've put the number of the willow trees in brackets, so 4 and 5. And so I've chosen the colours I want those trees highlighted in that yellow and red, and the arrow's pointing to this box that says add from list. So I've already got a list of the features that I've created. So if you click on that, it brings up all those features that you first put on the map, and then you simply click on the ones that you want to show up on your map. So I've just clicked on willow 4 and 5, and then those 2 willow trees will show up on the map. And then I can save and close that. And then it goes back into the original system. So don't be put off. It will always take you back into the original mapping page. So it's saved my willows needing pollarding map with the big red arrow there. And then you basically sorry, let me go back to that one. Can you see preview and download? So if you click on the download button, sorry, you can click on just the map itself and it will open up again. Click on the text, and then you can give it labels. So so I've just put in 2 labels there, willow 4, willow 5. So you just click on that blue button and you can add labels where you like. And then you go back into the system, the mapping system again, then you click download, and then you'll get a pop-up saying download your map, and then the PDF of your map will be produced, and then you can save that, or you can print it, or you can email it to someone. So I'm going to be printing that off and giving it to the tree surgeon to say those are the 2 willow trees that we need pollarding. So, hey presto, this is mapping. I think we'll stop there, just have a rest, and ask the question. That's a lot of information, I'm aware, and you may need to go away and sort of do it yourselves, and you're welcome to come back to me. But there was one poll question I was really interested in while we were talking, Mick, the one about the compartment and subcompartment, and also I think maybe the who owns your woodland, we could do that one at the end. So if we could just skip to the one about the compartment and subcompartment, if that's okay.
Yep, of course. Just to reassure people, first of all, you probably will work this out anyway, but by all means put your screen onto full screen so you can see everything at a sort of larger resolution, but I'm sure you've worked that one out. The second thing to say is we are recording the session, so you will be able to look back on this at other times. So I appreciate, as Jen said, there's a lot of information here. This will allow you to stop, start, stop, start. So hopefully that's good for you. So going back to the question then, I suppose spoken like a true teacher here, do you find the words compartment and subcompartment easy to use and understand? And if not, would you prefer a different word? So unmute yourselves and let us know what you think.
I'm happy using the compartment as a forest idea, so I can go with that.
Hi, I have learned something today because I've tried to use this ages ago, but haven't had enough time to commit to it. And so I've learned what a compartment is and a subcompartment. So it is helpful. I like the way you can highlight things as well. That's really cool.
Anybody else? No, okay. No. Sorry, Kim, are you going to say something?
I just wonder, when on the picture I can see now the willow is identifiable, but in other forests, can you sort of put a circle around an area rather than just that dot to give instructions?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, you know, going back to that adding features part, you know, the way you first started putting things on the map, you can do it however you like. You know, I mean, I've got such a tiny site. We've got, like, you know, goodness knows, not even 50 trees. So we do look at the trees individually mainly. But yeah, I'm aware if you're in a bigger woodland, you might just want to put a big old polygon around a group of hazel and then earmark that for coppicing. Yeah, yes. So yes, you might use the map in a different way to the way I am.
Okay, thank you.
I think on you go again then, Jen.
Okay, great. So, and there they are. There's willow 4 and 5 being chopped down by the tree surgeon. I think one of the things I apologise for is not more photos to bring this alive. So I'm aware that I'm talking a lot about a site that you can't even see yet. So maybe we can add some of those in as at the end and before it's uploaded. This presentation's uploaded. So. By the way, these aren't the willows that are going to be pollarded. Actually, no, they are. This is quite interesting. I've just realised this was 2015. So if anyone who's got willow on your site, you'll know my pain that they grow so quickly. So we got these done 3 years ago, and those little whips of willow are 20 centimeters in diameter. They're about 15 foot long. They're enormous. So amazing to have that source of wood on our site, but it does mean quite a lot of work every 3 years now, as it appears. So I've got that in our management plan that we need to pollard every 3 years. Okay, so basically, you've got these 3 tabs on the myForest system. So we've done mapping, we've gone through mapping, and obviously there's loads more you can do in mapping that I haven't showed you, but I just wanted to give you a taste of what you can do. So the second tab is called data, and that's where you put all the other information you collected on your survey sheet. So if you simply click on the text that says Forest School site, so one of your sub-compartments, out will pop this box with other tabs along the top there. So details of the site, inventory, designations.
Yeah, and we seem to have got that Dalek problem back again for a moment.
I'm obviously a to my alter ego. Shall I move? Is that any better if I move the microphone?
No, it's not made any difference.
No. Okay. What did I do before? I think I just clicked out of this for a minute. Nope. That's not.
That sounds better again now.
Yeah. Okay. So you simply click on a tab and you fill in the boxes. So this is all about ownership of the site. As you move along, this is your tree inventory. So as I said, you can count the number of trees or you can do a percentage. There's an option to do either. And we've got drop-down menus for all the different tree species there. And obviously, if you know something about when the trees were planted, or you are working with a woodland owner who knows the site well, you can put that information in. And height, if it's useful for you. Tree form is the shape of the tree. So foresters are obviously very keen, if they're growing wood for timber, to get nice straight trunks. But for us, it might be things like coppice is a tree form, or veteran tree. There's a guide to how you number those tree forms. If you click on the help on tree form box, it will take you through to a diagram of tree forms, and that will give you some guidance. Again, this is all if it's helpful to you. You don't have to do this, so take a look at it. As you fill these things in, I've just put the red arrow at the bottom there. Make sure you save and close every time, and then move on to the next tab. So under ecological impact assessment, we've got the kind of different layers of the woodland, your soil and ground layer and your shrub layer, what kind of activity might be happening in the woodland, and then its potential impact, positive or negative, and then what kind of action you're going to take to deal with that impact. And this is really where you start getting into your management planning and your action planning. And in the next tab, which is your work program, this is essentially pulling it all together. So you're going to list what you're going to do and when you're going to do it. So I've already established from my tree inventory and my survey that I've got all these willow trees that need pollarding. So I've ticked which years we want to go back and pollard those, and the fact that I need tree surgeons. Also the pond, needs a regular clear out on our site. So it's literally a to-do list and when you're going to do it. And you've also got space under notes for background notes, what your aims are for the site, maybe what the site used to be used for, how that's changed. And again, if you can find the previous woodland owners to talk about that, or the organisations who are managing the woods, that's always useful information. Just to go back to that, there is a tab on the end there, photo. At the moment, we could just upload one photo, which hasn't been very satisfactory. So I think I'm quite keen to just finish off. So I think, Mick, I'm going to leave that question till the end, and then we'll just let everyone have time to ask questions. So I'm pretty sure most of you will probably want to upload more photos, because I certainly do, but I just wanted to check, would that be useful? How could you use those? So if we come back to that at the end, that would be good. So that's all your data gone in under the different tabs. And then if you go into the planning tab, you are basically in the part of myForest that will download your plan as a final plan. So you literally just click on that big button, download plan, and it will produce you a PDF document with your name and where you are, and then it will have inside it all the tables you've produced, or your tree inventory, or your ecological impact assessment, everything you've written. The only thing it doesn't have is your map with all the features on it, because as I showed you, you need to create those maps yourself. So you just need to go in and give them colors and give them labels. So you can, if you're giving this to someone as a hard copy, you can print those maps off and just sort of staple them in behind your management plan. And you can do as many maps as you like. So that is a management plan, and we've found that very useful to show people who are skeptical about, forest school or what we're doing with young people or adults in woods, and they suddenly take us a little bit more seriously when we show them, here it is, we've actually done a proper management plan. We're trying really hard to look after our site, so it's quite a nice document, and you can also email that and share it with people. Yeah, I've put some links there of further information and training. The one thing I can't provide in this presentation is the sort of nitty-gritty of how to manage your individual tree species and how to manage a woodland, all the practical training. But the Royal Forestry Society and Small Woods can do that. And certainly Forest School Association is a great source of information for all kinds of things. You can, there's discussion areas for members, and you can ask questions there. If you want sort of teaching and learning materials or general identification resources, the Woodland Trust is excellent, and they've just updated some of their resources to include things about wood and woodland management, and they're obviously still giving out free tree packs for schools and community groups. There's also the Forest Education Network England, which produces newsletters and resources, and in particular there's a national CPD event on April the 4th next year up in Roslyston in Derbyshire, Roslyston Forestry Centre, and the aim of that will be to be doing CPD just on these sort of topics. So we'll be looking at tree health, tree planting, more woodland management planning, identification, and we'll have like forestry experts there, people from the industry, people from the timber industry, as well as educators who will be sharing ideas and offering up workshops. So the idea is to provide things that we as educators don't normally get access to or know about. And just to let you know, on the Silver site, on the myForest Silver site, we do have, I've mentioned a few resources that you can download for free. So there's that poster again about woodland management and the leaflet. We also set up our own sort of mini platform for resources called Timber. Oh, sorry, that's our work phone. And that's a free upload and download platform. There's some activities there already, but one of the most useful parts of the Timber website is the directory, which has got lots more organisations like the Forestry Commission if you need further information. And that's the end of the talking part. So I think it's probably best now, Mick, if people do have any questions at all. And there was just a couple of things I was keen to ask, which was the one about photos and how useful that would be to have more photos to be uploaded. And also just generally, do you own your woodland, or do other people own your woodland, and any issues with that, with management planning, and anything else?
Okay, thanks for that, Jen. So if people just want to unmute themselves and ask questions, please feel free.
Thanks very much, Jen. That's really useful. Can you hear me, everyone?
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Thank you.
I've been waiting a long time to work out how to use this particular sort of form really on the internet, so it's really good. We should be using it straight away. I was going to ask if we first of all use this myForest for Education, can it then be sort of transferred across to the myForest the one that goes to the Forestry Commission become sort of bigger than this, can you use this in a different form for use with the Forestry Commission if you've got a big woodland that might need some more support from another agency?
Yes, and that's I've been asked a lot. You're not the only ones to ask that, and unfortunately, at the moment, we can't do that transfer. So you're probably best if you're dealing with a bigger woodland with multiple uses, and you do want that Forestry Commission connection, then go use myForest. And my colleague Paul Orsi runs that program, and he's really happy to sit on the phone with you or answer any questions, because it's it's a bit more detailed. The principles are the same, but it's a little bit more involved because of the Forestry Commission requirements. So but if that, I mean, we have been asked that a few times, and it could be something we look to develop, because if that is very time consuming and not meeting your needs, that could be an area that we try and develop. So have you looked at the myForest system yet, the one that's not for educators?
No, not yet. But I think we will start with the one that you've just gone through, as it's really relevant. Yeah. I'm just curious, I don't want to hog time. I'm aware I might have some background noise in a minute. But how long does it take to sort of create this document? Because, when you're starting with a new project, these things take so many hours, which is really important. But, can you sort of suggest to funders that you're going to do this piece of work and ask them to fund your time to do it? Because it could take, a couple of days, a week or whatever. I just wondered whether you'd had any feedback about that.
No, but that's a really relevant question, because part of a new project we're starting at Silver is in partnership with the Ernest Cook Trust, and we're going to be doing a national survey of forest school leaders and educators to look at some of the barriers and opportunities to running forest school and woodland work for education. And that, if that comes out, like you say, as an issue, then it might be something they're interested in. I'm not aware of any funding for that at the moment, because certainly that's what the Forestry Commission says to woodland owners is, we have grants available to help you plant trees or fell trees, but only if you show us a management plan and that you can show that you're managing your woods well and you meet the UK FS standards. So we haven't quite got there yet in education. We do have the whole system at the Forest School Association of the recognised provider scheme, which definitely requires forest school providers to have a management plan in place. But obviously that's about recognition, with the sort of little badge that you get, rather than funding. So I mean, I'd say if you've got a big site, I can see that would take a while. First time I did it for the West Kidlington site, I was on doing my forest school training anyway. So typically forest school leaders, I guess, are doing this as part of their training often. And yeah, it didn't take any more than a day to do the survey and data entry. I think once you get your head around the system, it does get it's quicker as you go along. And actually, probably seeing it as I've presented it as a PowerPoint, it may look more off-putting than it really is. It's actually very easy once you get the hang of it. And obviously, once the information's in there, it's in there for the whole time. You can go in and out of that system anytime, change it, delete things. So I've always just updated the West Kidlington one now and again. I haven't spent that long on it, so that initial time allocation is sort of worthwhile. But yeah, I do understand what you mean. So you've obviously got a big new site, and you need to find some time. It might be good to have a conversation with Paul about that. I could put you in touch with him, because he will know better than me if there is any grants for woodland owners or managers who are doing big management planning processes. So I could send you his email.
Thanks, Jen. I was just typing actually to say that there's noise, lots of noise in my room. So if it gets too noisy, I'll type instead. Okay, thanks very much.
That's okay.
I'll let someone else speak now.
Any more for any more?
Hello, it's Kim. Just thanks, Joe. Jane, that's really useful today. And I have had a brief one before, but now I'm sort of confident to give it a go. I think I'm just, the Peewit Wood, just above Wantage, is a woodland trust management site, and the community group I belong to is Sustainable Wantage. We're sort of managing it. So I'm not quite certain where we are with our 5-year plan and the woodland trust woodland plan we have, but with this sort of, would they know about this and work with us on that?
Well, we do work with the Woodland Trust, but they might not all know about it. The education folks at Woodland Trust are aware of it, so it might well be that your specific contact at Woodland Trust might not know about it, and certainly, they may not have heard of the myForest for Education system, but they may have heard of the myForest system. So yeah, it's worth asking them, and depending what sort of level of management plan you're producing. If it's just for a small site that you're using with groups, then you could just take what you needed from the Woodland Trust management plan for the whole wood and just sort of put the bits in that are useful. Like I went to a woodland in up in the National Forest that was managed by the Woodland Trust, and the forest school leader was just using a little bit of their background information and the stuff about, like, they had a management plan for some of the trees already, so she could say, oh, I know these are going to be felled at this time of year, and so that was quite useful. In the myForest system for woodland owners, I think there is a way of bringing information in from other people's management plans, and again, Paul could talk to you more about that if you wanted to do the full-blown kind of myForest. Is it that you've got groups coming in to use the Wantage site?
Well, yeah, so the site is, I think it's owned by somebody else, but now in the Woodland Trust management. And Sustainable Wantage, a community action group, we have sort of the management of the system of the woodland now.
Right.
So a friend in a woodland, not quite forester, but him and myself have been doing the practical work of getting rid of the dead branches and doing the actual work that he's doing.
Right. Yeah.
He's now in Australia for 6 months, and I'm now suddenly the deputy warden of the site. So this is really interesting to sort of find out what can do, because our management plan is probably about a year or so left before we need to do some work on it again. It was unmanaged for forever, and we just had to clear out, I think, about 30% of the unsaplings to give the other trees strength.
Yeah.
And then Marion Hells has used it as a forestry site. Stouts use it for overnight camps. So it's used by community groups as and when.
Yeah.
So it's a multi-purpose woodland. Yes.
Yeah. So so really, I guess you are talking about myForest for Education then as probably the more useful version. Yes. I mean, and I've also seen where the woodland owner, so someone like Woodland Trust, would have the overall bigger management plan for the whole woodland, and then myForest for Education is just going to be for the areas that those groups are using, so they're much more specific. So probably need a conversation with the Woodland Trust manager, whoever's the kind of in charge of the woodland.
Oh, I'll have to find out now. That's my next job. But this is very, very useful, though. Thanks so much.
Okay, no problem. Yep.
I think Sarah's had a hand up for a while. Well done for using the system. But yeah, over to you, Sarah. You need to unmute yourself, or you've taken your hand down. Was that an accident then? Sarah, again, if you can't speak because the system's not working properly, apologies. But yeah, if you do want to ask a question now, just need to unmute yourself. Okay, sorry, that doesn't look like we can do that then. Apologies, Sarah, if you did want to ask something. Any other questions?
I've just put my hand up. It's so cool. I didn't realise you could do that. I was just going to say, if you've got more than one site, can you have multiple sites on one login, or do you have to have a new sort of registration for each site?
No, you can have sorry, I meant yes, you can have, so you can open your account with your email and your password, and then it will bring you through to Google Map, and you can then put as many sites as you like on that map.
Okay.
And then you'd just be a question of labeling them, as your they can be separate subcompartments or separate compartments. When you work out your labeling, that all kind of makes sense.
Okay.
And I'd say if it was loads, then you might need to consider using myForest rather than myForest for Education, because our system is really set up only for kind of a handful of subcompartments rather than loads. So but that's fine. And the only thing you can't do is, like you said before, using your email and login of myForest for Education for myForest. So you'd have to have two separate logins for the two systems.
Okay.
So there's nothing stopping you having a myForest account and a myForest for Education account, as long as they had different emails and logins. Okay.
The other thing is, I'm curious whether you could use it. Would you be happy for me to use it as a permaculture design tool?
Anything. Yeah.
So I'm creating I've got to create a permaculture design for my course, and I'm going to try and do it on my new garden, which is quite big and has a lot of trees. So if I could use that for to submit in the end, would you be happy for me to do that and then share it among our permaculture community?
Oh, definitely. And we've always thought that, we've designed this mainly for forest school and forest school needs, but the reality is it could be used for so many different things. And I've certainly used it with my son and his eco club for mapping the school grounds, and they've loved it. There's us kind of, or me, sorry, not you guys, but me stumbling along with the technology, and they've just gone in and zapped around it, drawn things on the map. So I mean, I would really love, we haven't got specific funding for this yet, but I still hanker after getting some money to develop a sort of young people's version with, emojis for features, who knows, stuff like that, so we're always really interested in its application, and certainly the myForest whole system has been used in all kinds of different ways by other members of Silver staff, with like the Environment Agency and kind of natural resource mapping and catchment management mapping. So it's kind of like it's like a model that can be used in lots of different ways. So no, we have no restriction. No restriction on how it's used, and love to hear when it's been used successfully.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
So Sarah's managed to get some communication too, as well done. She said, thank you. The most useful thing for forest school leaders is the very professional looking management plan. Really helps convince landowners. So she's clearly a fan.
Well, she also helped design it. She's one of the founders of myForest for Education, so it's nice to see the product. All that hard work. But I think it really does help the outside world, see that we really care about our woodlands. We're not just going in to trash them.
Yeah. So are there any other questions people have got? Any things they want to sort of say?
No, I think I'm done. I just want to thank everybody. Really, it's been really useful.
So same from here. Really useful to do this. I loved that in the woodlands, but to see this at home is it makes it accessible when you're busy other days. So thank you much.
Okay. that's been good. Again, thank you very much for your time. Funny enough, I was at the Timber Festival over the National Forest last weekend,
Me too.
and yeah, and it was a good event, wasn't it? It was interesting that a lot of the people who came along to the Making Locals Work stall were people who were there either with young people with profound learning difficulties, or people who were very much engaged in forest schools and so forth. So it does feel as though there's definitely a bit of a movement going there, and people seem to be more and more convinced about the fact that actually they're good places to be, particularly if you need to be there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I think we're also from our side at Silver, we'd like to get more woodland owners and landowners realizing this, it's not a huge undertaking to let groups access their woodlands, and so having things like the management planning system and the evidence from practitioners that people can work together, woodland owners and educators and social providers can work together, is really positive. So I think that, yeah, it's interesting to see over the last few years that the kind of understanding is really coming, and yeah, it's very exciting. Let's hope to see more of it.
Okay, I guess with that then we'll wrap up. Big huge thank yous to Jen. She's put a lot of work into sort of doing this, making it happen. And it was very useful, and it was understandable. And I'm not a technophobe, but I do need to take encouragement, and this was quite a nice step-by-step approach, which did feel as though it was sort of something which is useful. So thank you very much, Jen, on behalf of all of us. And in terms of next steps, we have been recording this, so we can and will share it, and we'll also make it available to Plunkett, so they'll put it somewhere available. So if you know other people who would find it useful, by all means, please do share the link and get other people to listen to it. So thank you very much with that in mind. So I imagine everybody's starting to get hungry for tea. So thank you very much for your time, and again, thank you very much, Jen, as well for speaking.
No, real pleasure. Thank you all for listening.
Bye.
And bye. Take care. Enjoy the sun.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye. 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 Bye, Sarah, if you can hear us.